Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
It is Election Day and polls open in just 30 minutes. You're looking live at Apex, where a few people are already outside the polling place. We'll have team coverage breaking down the big races and the lines that we'll be seeing at polling sites across the Triangle.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris make their final pushes for support hours before the polls open. Their messages for the American people in the last rallies before Election Day.
And as you're heading out the door, it's likely to be foggy this morning. We have a dense fog advisory. In effect, I'll show you what the conditions will look like as you head out the door.
And breaking news overnight, the costliest strike in decades is over. The deal Boeing factory workers accepted that will get them back to work. It is 6 o'clock on your Election Day. 57% of you have already voted. The rest have a chance to exercise your vote today and shape our country's future. We're glad you're with us. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Thanks for making us part of your Election Day. Our coverage here, a historic day on tap. WRAL is your election source for everything you need to know. Our team of reporters is already out at the polls right now. Before we get out to them, we're going to check in with Elizabeth Gardner right now with a first look at the forecast for when you folks head out to the polls.
You know, we always want weather to be good on Election Day. It is starting a little soupy out there this morning. We have a dense fog advisory in effect for most of the viewing area. You can see quarter-mile visibility from Southern Pines to Fayetteville to Goldsboro to Rocky Mount. Pretty much the entire viewing area shaded yellow. So just be on the lookout. This is an attempt to look at North Hills this morning, where it is 59 degrees. Our dew point 57, so it's a warm start this morning. Our temperature climbs to 80 degrees. The fog will dissipate by 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, and it will be partly cloudy and quiet for the rest of the day. Tracking Rafael, it is likely to become a hurricane as we get through the next couple of days, moving into the Gulf of Mexico with a small chance of bringing us some rain by late in the weekend. I'll show you coming up.
This is what's happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center. We are monitoring those dense fog conditions right now. You can see the orange showing where the fog is most dense, as Elizabeth just mentioned. You can see it covers the entire viewing area this morning. Let's head outside, give you a live look at what we attempt to see is I-885 and TW Alexander Drive. You can see the foggy conditions being reflected on the lights heading toward us. If you're getting ready to head out, give yourself some extra time. And when you do so, tune us in on the radio, 101.5 HD3. You can listen to us anywhere in the Triangle.
We are less than a half hour now until the polls open in North Carolina, and the nation is waiting to see what happens here in North Carolina. They'll be watching who wins. We're one of 7 battleground states that'll essentially decide the presidential race. The final poll data is out from realclearpolling.com. That's the average of dozens of polls, including our WRAL News poll. It shows how close the race is in North Carolina. Former President Donald Trump has a polling advantage of just over 1 percentage point over Vice President Kamala Harris. WRAL's Heidi Kirk is at what is usually a very busy place, community center in Apex. Both candidates have ramped up campaigning in North Carolina leading up to today, and we see some folks in line there already. Heidi, good morning.
Jeff, good morning. The Apex Community Center is a busy place already this morning. In fact, I'm going to step out of the way and have you take a look back here. You're going to see a number of people already in line at this polling location. I talked to a number of them, and they said that they have plans today, so they got here early to knock it out of the way first thing. And of course, as you mentioned, both presidential campaigns have made stops here in the state of North Carolina as part of their battleground blitz yesterday. Now, former President Donald Trump made a stop here at Dorton Arena yesterday morning. He focused on issues like immigration, the economy, and proposed a plan to impose a 25% tariff on all goods from Mexico if the country's president doesn't help curb the flow of immigrants. Now, meanwhile, First Lady Jill Biden made several stops on behalf of the Harris campaign across North Carolina, including in Carrboro and Durham. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris traveled to several battleground states as well, ending her day in Pennsylvania. Now, both candidates urge voters to make it to the polls today and hit home the issues that they've been preaching throughout this campaign.
It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. So Pittsburgh, listen, we got 1 day left to get this done. So now we work to get out the vote.
So in conclusion, with your vote tomorrow, we're going to fire Kamala, we're going to save America, and we're going to cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories back to America and back to North Carolina.
Now, former President Donald Trump did win the state of North Carolina in the last two elections, so he's just trying to hang on to this battleground state while Kamala Harris is looking to flip it. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live in Apex.
We're also keeping a close eye on the race for North Carolina's next governor between Attorney General Josh Stein and Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live from the Chavis Community Center in Raleigh. And Kelsey, unlike the presidential race, this one is not neck and neck. Polling shows Stein has a big lead.
Yes, Renee, and right now we're starting to see some folks show up here at the community center as now polls will open here in the next 30 minutes. So let's give you a breakdown now of what's happening right now in the governor's race. Take a look at your screen. Results from the WRAL News poll show Attorney General Josh Stein has a double-digit lead. It shows 52% of voters are backing him, while only 37% support Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. 10% are still undecided. Stein's platform includes supporting reproductive rights and addressing affordable housing. Robinson announced a public safety platform back in August, promising to crack down on drugs and violent crime. Stein and Robinson will have watch parties tonight in Raleigh, so we'll be sure to have crews there at both locations to keep you updated as results start coming in. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
And another race getting a lot of attention is the race for the next leader of North Carolina's public schools. WRAL's Laura Levine joins us live from the Herbert Young Community Center in Cary. Our newest poll numbers show this is a very close race between Michelle Morrow and Mo Green. Laura, good morning.
It is. Good morning, Jeff. And we're already beginning to see some action here at the Herbert C. Young Community Center. We can see dozens of volunteers that are unloading vehicles, setting up and preparing for the big day ahead. And as you just mentioned, the race to oversee North Carolina's public schools remains extremely tight. According to the latest WRAL News poll, 42% of likely voters said they supported Republican Michelle Morrow, while 41% said they plan to vote for Democrat Mo Green. Green brought years of experience to this race. He's a former superintendent of Guilford County Schools and was most recently the executive director of the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. One big campaign platform for Green focused on public school initiatives. Morrow entered the race as a political outsider who had little experience with education policy. She's a former nurse and a homeschooler. Now, her background as an outsider and controversial social media posts, including ones calling for the executions of prominent Democrats, has been criticized throughout the race. She's focused on addressing school safety and security throughout her campaign. Now, Morrow is planning to have a campaign watch party tonight here in Cary. Meanwhile, Mo Green plans to watch the results coming in at his house. Laura Levine, WRAL News, we're live in Cary.
New election laws mean election night results will be reported later than usual. In both the 2016 and 2020 elections, a large chunk of results came out soon after polls closed. That's because county boards were able to start counting early voting ballots before polls closed. Now, county boards in North Carolina have to wait until 7:30 tonight to begin the process of counting those ballots. That means it will take 30 to 60 minutes, maybe even longer in some counties, before we will see any unofficial early voting results. Nearly all of the state's votes are expected to be reported by late tonight.
And with all that counting, Renee, you can count on WRAL for the fastest election results and most comprehensive coverage tonight. Starting at 7 p.m., WRAL News and NBC News will partner for results and analysis on local and national races. NBC will be tracking the national picture throughout the night on WRAL. Then be sure to watch our 11 o'clock news for a wrap-up of all the big local races. For nonstop North Carolina election coverage, you can watch WRAL News, WRAL News Plus, and Fox 50 starting at 7 p.m. We'll have reporters all across the state at the candidates' watch parties and live analysis as the results come in. You'll find WRAL News Plus on Spectrum Channel 1257, over the air on Channel 34, and wherever you stream WRAL.
Breaking this morning, the Boeing strike is officially over. 59% of factory workers voted to accept the company's third offer. It includes a 38% raise over 4 years, including an immediate 13% raise. Workers will also receive a $12,000 bonus. But the deal did not restore Boeing's old pension plan. That ended in 2014. Workers will get back to work beginning on Wednesday. The 7-week-long strike was the country's costliest in more than 25 years.
The WRAL Live Center is your place, giving you a look at Election Day at the polling locations, but also the ballot processing facilities. Join me after the break. We're headed down to Texas.
And with Election Day here, it's essential to protect your information, the scams you need to be on the lookout for later today. And Elizabeth Gardner tracking some fog in our area.
Yeah, sometimes that affects voter turnout. It is really foggy out there this morning. This is a live look at downtown. Dense fog advisory for the entire viewing area. I'll show you what it will look like as you head out.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
6:13. It's a foggy start across the viewing area. Dense fog advisory for pretty much the entire viewing area for us. You can see the area covered in orange. That's where we're seeing the best chance of fog. Roxborough just dropped to a quarter of a mile, Rocky Mount, Goldsboro, Fayetteville, and Southern Pines. And that's where it is likely to be the densest. We did climb back up to half-mile visibility in the Triangle, but it's been pretty soupy out there for a good bit of the morning. We take a look at some of the cameras. Durham, you can't even see downtown there. It's 59. Raleigh, definitely foggy as we're looking down Fayetteville Street, 59 degrees, and in Fayetteville as well, where it's 58. So it's a warm start this morning, and it is a foggy start. The fog will dissipate by 9 or 10 o'clock this morning. It'll be partly cloudy this afternoon for voters with a high of 80. Ken?
Elizabeth, weather and traffic every 10 minutes, and we are tracking those foggy conditions here in the WRAL Traffic Center. You can see I-40 South Saunders, that foggy conditions being reflected on the lights heading toward us. This is what it looks like on a live traffic map this morning. You can see the deep orange shows where the fog is most dense, so definitely give yourself some extra time. No major incidents reported in any of our major routes. We are getting reports of a crash on Arundel Avenue down east. It's near I-87. I'll keep an eye on that. Have an update in about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks, Ken. Wild scene on the roads here yesterday. Authorities are trying to find a person who led deputies on a multi-county chase and then crashed into a trooper's car in Person County. We had Sky 5 in the air over that scene yesterday. You can see the damage to the cruiser on Bethany Church Road there. Highway Patrol says that trooper fired shots at the driver who rammed a stolen pickup truck into that cruiser after a chase that started in Butner. Just slowed him down, though. It didn't stop him. The driver was able to speed away. Authorities later found the truck on Old Red Mountain Road in Durham County, but the driver was gone.
We are working to learn more this morning about a person who was hit and killed in a Fayetteville crash. Police say the person was hit yesterday at the intersection of Rayford Road and Revere Street. That person later died at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center. We're making calls to learn the name of the person who died and whether anyone is facing charges.
Election day is here, and it's important to watch out for scams like any big day. Scammers may use today to prey on people. WRAL's Michelle McConaughey is here now with some key warnings folks need to keep in mind.
Yeah, Jeff, the NC Attorney General's office and 5 on your side want you to steer clear of scams. So here's what you need to know. Remember, you cannot vote by text or email. Scammers may try to convince you that you can vote that way. You can only vote in person or by returning a previously requested absentee ballot. Ignore messages offering last-minute absentee ballots, assistance with correcting your ballot for a fee, or rewards for participating in polling calls. The FBI also warns against campaign investment pools promising returns based on election outcomes. Also, remember that campaign donations are non-refundable. And finally, watch for fake closing notices. Scammers may call or text with false claims that polls are closed or that your vote is not needed. Polling hours in North Carolina are set 6:30 this morning until 7:30 tonight, and every vote counts.
Here in the WRAL Live Center, I'm looking at the feeds this morning, and you'll see here behind me, these are different cameras that are up across the United States outside of polling locations, some people even being interviewed, and that's something we're watching. But another thing we're looking at as well, the ballot processing that's happening. This is a live look at several different cameras that is in Denton, Texas. This is just north of the Dallas area. It's empty right now, but the expectation is we'll start seeing more people go in there when the ballot processing actually begins. I do want to leave you with just one other camera look that I've seen this morning just because there was a lot of activity. This is in Los Angeles County in California. A lot of people buzzing about there preparing for Election Day as they begin to count the ballots there. Again, we know transparency is so important, and here on WRAL News, we've even reported to you about how some people don't trust that process. But of course, we'll continue to watch for other live cameras so you can see exactly what is going on across the United States.
Election workers will have a very busy night. Chris, thank you. In a tradition that goes back decades, the first votes on Election Day were cast just after midnight in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire. The township is home to 13 people. 6 are registered to vote. 3 voted for Kamala Harris and 3 voted for Donald Trump.
Election workers in the western part of our state say that they have been working overtime after Helene to make sure everything is in order as people head out to the polls this morning. Buncombe County's elections director says they had to send out new absentee ballots after some people lost their homes. They also had to come up with some new plans for early voting and Election Day. Polling places had to be moved for a variety of reasons. Some became emergency relief sites and others were just too badly damaged. WRAL has a crew in western North Carolina covering Election Day in that part of the state for you. And because many schools are used for polling places, there is no school in Wake County today. Other districts, including Durham Public Schools and Cumberland County Schools, will have staff work days.
It is 6:18, and so good news that there will be fewer buses out on the roads navigating these foggy conditions that we are seeing all across the viewing area. Let's get to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner with a look at where some of the thickest fog is.
Here's a look at 4 of the cameras, and you can see some pretty thick fog here in Fayetteville. This is actually a look at North Hills, and this camera sits up pretty high, so it is looking through a lot of clouds and fog, but you can't see the buildings there at North Hills. Apex is looking foggy. Chapel Hill is not looking as bad. There's definitely some low cloud cover here. That camera courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. The yellow orange shaded area is where visibility is lowest, especially down to a half a mile to a quarter of a mile. Southern Pines, Fayetteville, Goldsboro, Rocky Mount, Roxborough, all at a quarter of a mile, which is what we would consider fog. We're awfully close to it there in Durham and Raleigh, as well as South Hill and Clinton. So most of the viewing area dealing with at least some fog out there this morning. The Weather Service extended the dense fog advisory through our western counties just a little while ago. Once the fog burns off, which is likely to happen around 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, we'll see partly cloudy skies for the rest of the day and 80 degrees, which is close to a record for today. The next thing that happens is we're going to see some rain approaching from the west. We have a flow coming off the Atlantic out of the southeast, and that is producing some scattered showers across South Carolina and the mountains of North Carolina. But we're not likely to see any of that. This is going to be our next weather maker that heads our way. We're going to jump ahead to tomorrow because we'll see partly cloudy skies today once the fog burns off and dry conditions. But tomorrow we'll start off with the potential for maybe a little bit of drizzle and some low cloud cover. It'll be a fairly cloudy day for us tomorrow. And then during the evening, we start to see the rain rolling in. There's 11 o'clock and there's 8 a.m. on Thursday. The heaviest rainfall that we see will be in our southern counties, but it may end up being with us for a good chunk of the day tomorrow, looking at about a 40 to 50% chance of showers on Thursday. So slowing down a little bit, a small chance for tomorrow, but our best chance of rain will be Thursday. And it does look like we'll have some significant amounts of rainfall, potentially as much as a half an inch in Fayetteville, quarter of an inch from Raleigh northward. The heaviest rain will be in the mountains and down to the south. Tropical storm Rafael winds at 60 miles per hour, likely to become a hurricane by tomorrow and moving across parts of Cuba and then potentially weakening before it makes landfall, potentially here along the Gulf Coast. Some of the models want to just have it die out here in the Gulf, but some of them want to have it swing around to the east, and it could bring us some light rain by early next week. This is a look at some of those computer model plots that want to make that right turn. It doesn't look like it would be much rain for us, however. Going to be warm the next couple of days, and then after Thursday's front, we're going to see cooler temperatures. It looks like it's going to be a pretty nice weekend around here. Ken?
Looking forward to that. We're also monitoring those foggy conditions you just mentioned, Elizabeth. The orange shaded area shows where the fog is most dense this morning. We don't have any major incidents to report on any of our major routes. We are getting reports of a crash on a Rendell Avenue there in Zebulon this morning. This is a live look at that camera at Zebulon Avenue, Rendell Avenue, and I-87. We don't see the crash on this map, but you can see the foggy conditions there. Definitely try to leave the house a little sooner than usual this morning. And when you do, tune us in on the radio because traffic is constantly changing. 101.5 HD3, you can listen to us anywhere in the Triangle.
Thanks for that, Ken. Security will be a top concern at polls today. We know that. The measures local law enforcement are taking to keep everyone safe.
And the polls will open in about 10 minutes. You are looking live at the Herb Young Community Center in Cary, where voters are about to enter the doors. What you need to remember before you head to your polling place today.
This What's Trending report, sponsored by Rug & Home.
Another singer is taking a surprising fall on stage.
And you can get a 7-minute preview of the new Smile movie if you can hold your grin. Ken Smith here now with What's Trending.
I'm holding my grin. Got it? Now let's start with Coldplay's Chris Martin tumbling through a trapdoor in the floor of a stage during a concert in Melbourne, Australia. He hopped back up and appeared to be okay. Now, if that looks familiar, Olivia Rodrigo fell through a different stage also in Melbourne last month.
Melbourne. I'm staying away from that. Look at this. Hey, good thing there were people there to break his fall.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you can see a 7-minute excerpt from the new horror movie Smile 2 online, but there's a catch. You have to turn your webcam on and smile for 7 minutes straight. Every time your smile drops, well, the video stops.
Our producer Dave tried it, and he said, yeah, as soon as you stop smiling, you get a blank screen, and then it get a prompt to tell you to keep smiling for 7 minutes so you can see this whole thing.
My goodness, 7 minutes.
Keep smiling, don't look away. It is super creepy.
Yeah.
Ken, thanks. You know, if you need a ride to the polls today, the city of Raleigh has you covered. Charges for city buses are waived today. You can catch a free ride. The city hopes this will encourage people to get out and vote.
Polls open here in North Carolina in just about 3 minutes. This is a live look at Brown Community Center in Apex, where the line is growing. Look at that. We have team coverage of the big day from polling places across the Triangle.
It's foggy out there, so keep that in mind as you're traveling around. This is a look at Wilson this morning. Dense fog advisory across the entire viewing area. I'll show you when the fog will start to lift.